The winter sun was pale that morning, barely warming the concrete sidewalks where a thin boy, no older than 14, stood with a basket of half-wilted roses. His coat was torn, his shoes were not the same size, and his fingers were stiff from the cold. Yet his eyes held something rare, a kind of stubborn hope that refuses to disappear even when life stops offering reasons. People passed without noticing him, faces buried inside their expensive scarves, rushing toward heated offices and warm cars. But the boy stayed in place, whispering to himself the words he hoped would help him sell even one rose, because for him, one rose could mean a piece of bread, a small meal, or a chance to take something home for his sick mother. The day was another day of hunger, another day of waiting for a miracle that never seemed to arrive, until one man, with polished shoes and pride sharpened like a knife, stopped in front of him and turned his fate into a cruel game. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of one moment to change a life, please like, comment, share, and subscribe right now to support inspiring stories like this. Your support means more than you know. The man was well known in the city. A millionaire with a reputation colder than the luxury watches he collected. People said he rose from poverty, but somewhere along the way, he forgot the taste of struggle. He never spared a coin, never helped a stranger, and considered the poor as entertainment rather than humans. When he stopped in front of the boy, his smile was more dangerous than a threat. The boy looked up, his lips trembling from cold and hunger, clutching one rose as if it was his last chance. The man laughed and asked him what the price was, not because he wanted to buy, but because mocking poverty gave him a rush. The boy answered in broken English, hoping it would make the man understand. The millionaire laughed louder, drawing attention. Then he made the challenge that froze the air around them. Sell me these roses in Arabic, and I'll pay you $100,000. People nearby turned, confused and intrigued. The boy stared, unsure if he heard correctly. Arabic was not a language he knew much of. His mother had sometimes whispered Arabic phrases at night, words she remembered from her grandmother, but that was all. The boy tried to speak, but the words refused to come. His tongue felt heavy. The crowd began recording, amused by the spectacle. The men waited, arms crossed, enjoying the power of watching a desperate child fail. The boy forced a sound, broken, wrong, painful to hear. The millionaire shook his head proudly, smirking as he turned to leave, believing the moment proved something, his superiority, his dominance, his place in the world. But then, something unexpected stopped him mid-step. A woman stepped forward from the crowd, her face pale, her eyes filled with disbelief. She whispered something in Arabic, a phrase that carried years of silence and pain, and the boy's eyes widened. A memory flashed like lightning, a lullaby in another language, sung by his mother when he couldn't sleep because hunger twisted his stomach like a fist. The woman walked closer, tears shining, and said the same phrase again. The boy repeated it after her, shakily, but with feeling. The crowd fell silent. The millionaire turned back, confused, watching the boy speak, not perfectly, not fluently, but with a heart that bled sincerity. The woman explained that she once knew his mother. They had lived as refugees in the same shelter years ago. She recognized the boy's face, the same eyes she remembered holding onto her mother's hand at a border where people had no names, only numbers. The millionaire's smirk disappeared. The boy repeated another phrase he remembered, speaking from memory rather than knowledge, and the woman nodded, tears falling freely now. The crowd changed its expression, no longer entertained, but touched. Suddenly, the cruel challenge became a moment of truth. The millionaire stood still, his throat tight. The story he never asked for was unfolding in front of him, exposing his arrogance. The woman continued, telling the crowd how the boy's mother sacrificed everything to keep her child alive, working through sickness to feed him scraps. She passed away 2 weeks ago, alone in a small rented room, without medicine, without help. The boy didn't know yet. He believed she was still waiting for him with a weak smile and tired eyes. She died trying to teach him the last lullaby in Arabic, so he could remember where she came from, and maybe someday, where he came from too. The roses he sold were from the last savings she left in a tin box. Her dream was simple, for her child to learn dignity, not beg for pity. The millionaire felt something in his chest crack open. Memories resurfaced, his own childhood hunger, his mother's hand selling vegetables by the road, her voice in another language. He had buried those memories under wealth and pride. Seeing the boy was like seeing a reflection of the child he once was, a reminder that fortune is not a permission to forget pain. Without speaking, he took out his wallet, removed a check, and wrote the full amount. He handed it to the boy with trembling hands. But the crowd saw something they had never seen before. Ashamed of his cruelty, the boy looked at the paper, confused, unable to read the numbers, not understanding the meaning of the gesture. The woman explained softly, and the boy covered his face and sobbed, the roses falling to the ground. It wasn't the money that broke him, it was hearing that someone remembered his mother, that her mother tongue lived in him, even if he barely knew it. The millionaire bent down, picking up the roses, placing them gently back in the basket. It was a gesture of humility, of apology without words. He whispered, barely audible, that he once was hungry too, and that sometimes the wealthy become the poorest in soul. The woman offered to take care of the boy, promising to help him continue his mother's dream, education, dignity, and learning the language that held his family's history. The crowd didn't clap, they simply watched with hearts heavy and full. The millionaire walked away without saying anything more, but everyone could see that the man who arrived was not the same man who left. Some moments don't just change the poor, they change the powerful. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support inspires us to create more stories that remind the world that kindness still exists. Special request, comment below what you would do if you saw a child selling roses in the cold. Your words might inspire someone today. That day, the boy walked away not with roses to sell, but with a new beginning held tightly in his hands. And the woman walked beside him, knowing that life sometimes breaks us only to rebuild us stronger. The millionaire, sitting alone in his car, closed his eyes and remembered a lullaby in a language he once tried to forget, a lullaby that now returned as a reminder that wealth is meaningless if it costs a person their humanity.